Hey everyone, it's Kia Kelly, founder of You, Me, and Jesus. Super excited to be with you guys every single Sunday at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. If you're watching this on the replay, what's up, replay people? Just type hashtag replay in the comments and it lets us know that you are watching this on the replay. But I'm here with my friend, Rebecca.
Hello.
Yay! And so tonight on You, Me, and Jesus, we are talking about prophetic worship, all right? So even if you are catching this on the replay, you can comment and we'll comment back to you on the replay. If you're watching this on YouTube, what's up, YouTube? And if you happen to be listening to this on the... if she's trying to share it. If you happen to be listening to this on the podcast, thank you so much for listening. We're so excited to be here. And we have our studio audience. We're adding people. So tonight we're talking about prophetic worship, and you guys are going to see us share the broadcast. If you think somebody would benefit from watching this, please feel free to share. I got something going on with my hair there. And you're going to see me sharing this on my iPad as well. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Now, if you're brand new to You, Me, and Jesus, this is actually our second year of doing it. We're going into our third now. And so if you ever want to watch hundreds of videos, you can go to YouTube and type in You, Me, and Jesus, or you can type in my name and you'll see all type of stuff from the last 2 years, all right? So we're going to go ahead and get into this interview with Miss Rebecca Rubio. And at the end of this, Rebecca's actually going to dance, okay? And she actually has her flags, and she has a business, and we'll talk about that as we go to the broadcast. So Rebecca, introduce yourself, tell everyone what do you do, and anything special about you. Just start us off.
Well, I am Rebecca Rubio, and I own and I'm a founder of Dying at the Altar. I create Dying at the Altar. I create flags and worship products, and I also have a flag and dance team. I'm just a lover of Jesus Christ, and full-time wife and mommy to. We have 4 adult children and 1 teenager.
How's that?
Exciting.
All I heard was the word teenager, right? Yeah, so tonight we have a whole lot going on in here, guys. But we're going to interview Rebecca, where she's going to talk about her relationship with God, and then prophetic dance and all those types of things. So if you have questions, go ahead and place them in the comments, and then we'll answer them during the... she's trying to share the broadcast. We're going to figure it out. I'm going to share it when she starts talking. I'll share it for you.
Because Eric's trying to watch it.
Oh, okay. So Rebecca, let's go ahead and get into it. So first, tell everybody, when did you first come into a relationship with God, right? And just, because I know there's a bunch of different people that are watching from all different walks of life, and we just want to, because a lot of times people are like, well, they super Christian or they super perfect. They come from super background, they're preacher's kids and all that. And then we share them with the truth and they're like, oh, you's a mess. Or you was a mess, And so I love to be able to share with people that nobody's perfect and we just all come to Christ at different stages.
Okay, well, I guess officially having a relationship with Jesus, I started having knowing Jesus as my Savior, my true Savior, and having a real relationship with Him was June 2000. Before that, though, I heard of Jesus, and I knew of Jesus, and I knew He had died on the cross for me, but I didn't have a relationship with Him. I just knew about Him, and I knew the things that He did, but at that time, I didn't know He did them personally for me.
Is that because you were in church, or people were?
Well, I was up until about 3rd grade. I went to a Catholic church, but I didn't grow up in a household where we prayed over our food. That we lived what you would call a typical Christian family.
Yeah.
Actually, our family was pretty dysfunctional. We had. We went to church. Well, just my dad took us to church occasionally on Sundays, but my mother was raised in a Catholic family, and that's what she knew, and that's kind of what I knew. And she would pray with us at night, and we had, prayers that you memorized, and that's what we used to pray.
Yeah. So you said 2000. What was your age?
So
Don't ask her that.
I'm asking you a question.
Studio audience telling me what to do.
How old was I? Let me tell you.
And so the reason why I ask her is because some of you all you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and some of you guys watching are in your 60s and 70s, and you don't have a relationship with the Lord yet. And so there's no shame. There's no shame in whatever stage that you're in. Sometimes people think that I'm just the greatest Bible scholar, and I have to explain to them that I use a table of contents. I know where Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are. I know that Revelation is at the end. Genesis at the beginning. I know that Psalms and Proverbs are right there smack in the middle. And I know that I can get wherever I need to get to, but it's by going to the table of contents, right? And I have an amazing relationship with God. This doesn't mean that I know the Bible in and out, and then I'm not perfect. If you talk to me for about 45 seconds, you'll go, oh. Go ahead.
So in June 2000, at that time, I had actually started the year off. My father died from cancer that year.
Oh, man.
It was a pretty quick process. He was diagnosed in November 1999 on Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving. He was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and he died February 26 in 2000.
Wow.
And at that time, I was just searching. There was something in me. I just kept trying to go to church, and I just kept going back to what I knew. And the problem was I wasn't in the Catholic Church long enough to know all the things that they did. There are certain hand movements you do, certain, getting up at certain times, repeating certain things. So I would leave church feeling discouraged and not that like I didn't know enough, because I would be lost.
Oh, wow.
When people are saying something, I'm trying to find where it is that I'm supposed to be saying. When people are standing, I'm like, oh, I need to stand up. So
wow.
I would leave there feeling discouraged, like I wasn't good enough, you can say, and because I hadn't been there enough, I didn't know enough, so I couldn't follow the program, and I would leave going home the same way.
Wow.
But there was something in me. I was really searching, still hungry for the Lord. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew I wanted something, and I needed it in my life, and my kids needed it. So in June that year, I was invited by a school friend. Her and I had been friends from like 3rd grade on, and we would reconnect throughout the years every now and then, and she had just reconnected with me, invited me to a Bible study at her home, and then invited me to church on the following day. And so I went with her to church on a Wednesday night, and for the very first time I felt something I had never felt before, which I could say now was the tangible presence of God.
Oh, wow.
So there was just like a tingling sensation I felt on me. And, and it was like, wow, I've never felt this before.
Yeah.
And just something, and there was like a peace in the presence, and it just made me weep, and I didn't even know. And so that night when they asked people, had they ever accepted the Lord as their Savior, I had never even heard of that.
Right.
But I was down. I went down to the altar call, and I remember though when we prayed this prayer to asking Him to come into your heart, and saying that you believe that He died on the cross. I did all of that. And then the pastor was talking about the things that He's done for some of us. And at that time I thought, well, he hadn't done that for me.
Right.
I didn't know. I didn't have the revelation that He had actually did that for me.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, I had worked really hard in my life to overcome the past failures I had. I'd been living on my own since I was 14. And I dropped out of school in 8th grade. And so when I was 19 years old, I had through my husband's help, my husband now, he helped me understand that I can change my life. And at that point in my life, I was just really depressed, and I felt really stuck, and helpless, and I felt like I had failed, and that I was always going to live in that life, a life of poverty and struggle because of my choices. I felt that that was what I was getting because of the choices I had made, and I was going to have to live that way forever.
Wow.
So, with my husband's help, I was able to finally understand that I could change my life.
Wow.
And it came actually through laughter. He made me laugh. And when I laughed, I didn't even understand it at the time, but something broke in me. And he told me if I wasn't happy, just do something about it. So.
Sounds like Erica.
I was like, really? I can do something? Wow. So from that day forward, I started doing something about it. And I worked hard. I had to go to GED preparation classes because I never went to high school. I didn't know anything. And so I had to learn everything and pass my GED tests. And then I took some basic office training, and the door was open for me to work in the legal field. And I became a paralegal, and I did that for 20 years. So before me going to the altar that day, I had worked really hard. I bought my first house, and I was working, I was paralegal. I was working for attorneys. I had a good job. I had a nice car, and we were not living in the hood. We were living in the suburbs now. It was like I had my kids in a good school, so my life had changed. And the biggest thing for me was like I wasn't living in sin anymore.
Right.
So at that point in my life, I thought I've done so well for myself. I worked hard.
Yeah.
I accomplished all these things on my own. And I was like, yes, I did it. I beat it. And so when I went to the altar that day, although I confessed Jesus as my Savior, I didn't see that He had done anything for me. I had done all these things on my own.
Raise your hand if you're like, yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah, so because I have worked hard.
Yeah.
I worked hard. I went from working at fast food restaurants, being stuck on food stamps, living in welfare, not knowing how to drive, walking everywhere I needed to go. And so I had accomplished a lot, and I didn't know that. I thought I did that for myself.
Right.
So at that time, I thought, yeah, He's good, and I did that. But I did this for me, and I was living right.
Yeah. So how did you realize that was not about you?
Okay, so fast forward. So at that time, there was an instant hunger in me. I was going to church like 3 times a week. I was going to Bible study. And I bought everyone Bibles in the house. Yes. KSBJ was on the radio. Yeah. I was even stocking up on CDs. That was it. And then I went through a kind of like a rough period because I switched jobs, and I started focusing on my baby. I had a baby, brand new baby at that time, and he had a lot of ear infections. His eardrum was always rupturing, and at that time I was also having a lot of migraines. So it was like it never felt. Friday would come, a migraine would come too. And 3 days in a row I'd have a migraine. So, and at that time my husband wasn't going to church with me. It was occasionally, so he wasn't home saying, let's go to church. So it was really easy for me just to stay in.
Yeah.
And so eventually, after about 3 months of dealing with that, I stopped going to church. And then I started becoming focused on myself. My daughter was going to have a sweet 16, and I wanted to lose weight. So I first started off with, I go to the gym every morning for an hour. Then it was not just in the mornings. I was going to the gym every night. So it was hour workout in the morning, hour workout at night. And because I was on a mission to lose weight and be fit for her sweet 16.
Oh, wow.
So I was now, that was my mission. That was my focus. And also I got put on a antidepressant and an anxiety medication, and I became very numb.
Oh, wow.
I can remember watching movies that used to move me and touch me. I remember watching them, and it had no effect on me. And I can remember at one point my husband even telling me, "You need to go back to church." So I was like, because I was being cold, like I don't care, So yeah, he told me I need to go back to church. So yeah, I had that attitude, and I didn't care anymore.
Wow.
And then I began to work at a new law firm, and there was someone there who, she asked me, she saw something in me, and she just happened to ask me, "Are you a Christian?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, but but I'm not going to church. I'm doing this and that, but I haven't gone to church anymore." And so,
sorry, go ahead.
So yeah. And every week, I had told her, there was a church by my house. I've been thinking about going, but I don't know about the services. And so I used to dread coming into work, because on Mondays, I dreaded coming into work on Mondays, because every Monday she would ask me, "Did you call that church?" And I would just be like, "Oh God, don't ask me." Don't ask me.
Because everybody wanted you to go to church?
Just because she knew that was where I was at and had stopped going.
Oh,
and so
okay.
God was using her, and really it was like annoying. I didn't want to. It's like, don't ask me. But she asked me so much. I was like, fine, I'm just going to call them. So I called them, and I began to visit that church. And just every now and then I would go. But then my daughter's Sweet 16 was coming, and I needed pastors. I needed pastors for ceremony. So
wait, you needed pastors for ceremony?
I wanted somebody to have a ceremony for her at the. Have you ever been to a Sweet 16?
No, tell us about that.
Okay, so usually in the Hispanic community, we do what's called a quinceañera.
Okay.
And that's where you're presenting her as a woman.
Yeah.
And so there's a blessing that comes over that. And you do all these things that symbolize different things in her life that she's stepping into.
Oh. And you have to have more than one minister, a pastor?
Well, you have one pastor, and then usually they call them like, I'm trying to think of what's the English words, but there's like padrinos. So those are people who sponsor things for the event.
Oh.
This is a whole big, it's like a wedding.
Wow. So yeah. It's in the Hispanic community, or is it Catholic?
It's a Catholic thing, I guess.
Oh, okay. So just to understand, because I know they're probably asking too, do Christians do that in the Hispanic community?
I think it's a Catholic thing.
Okay. I've always heard about it, but I've never really understood, so that's good.
Did you tag the thing? By the way, just asking.
Did I who?
Did you tag on my...
Yes,
So my husband can see.
She's asking about showing us on Facebook. Let me see your phone. Pull it up so I can show it to your husband.
Okay.
We're going to let her keep going. I'm going to share this to her Facebook page. Okay, I got it. Go ahead.
Okay, so, but we didn't do a 15. We did a Sweet 16. It's going to be the same thing. I needed a pastor to officiate the ceremony. And we had, all these things planned for her. And so we had to go meet the pastors and,
yeah,
and be official. So my husband and I started going a little bit more regularly to church.
So you would have somebody. Okay.
So we had the Sweet 16 for her, and it was big. I mean, it was beautiful.
Wow.
And then right after her 16, though, this is when my life changed.
Whoa.
Because right after her Sweet 16, I took her to get her hair cut. And while my daughter was getting her hair cut, she got an attitude with my friend about her hair. And I got upset.
Uh-oh.
I was just like, you're being rude. You need to apologize to her. She had done something, like she had put bangs in her hair, and I'm like, oh, look, you look like when you were a little girl. And, my daughter had a really big attitude. Mm-hmm. And that was embarrassing for me as a mom.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put her straight. And I was just like, you can't treat people like that. Stop being mean to her. You need to apologize. And so we had this big, talk on the way home. Next morning, she went to school. I helped her fix her hair. She looked really pretty. And that night when she came home, I asked her, how did everybody like your hair? And she was like, well, they liked it. And And I happened to call her during the day and ask her something because I had received a disturbing phone call, and I wanted to reach out to her at school before she got home, and I had asked her some questions. And then so that night she brought it up to me. Well, remember when you called me and asked me if anyone has done anything to me? And I said yes. And so now I'm like mad. I'm like, because she's like, oh, well, she didn't want to tell me. I'm like, you need to tell me. You know, I was so angry. Like, talk to me. Tell me now. What? You know. And so we're coming in and out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so then she began to tell me what happened to her. And I was crushed because she had told me she had been sexually abused for many years. And she was 16, and it had started when she was 3 or 4 years old.
Wow.
And it went for over 10 years, and I never knew. So my heart, you know, just like felt like it went into my stomach, and all the visions and everything of her describing everything that happened to her, and was somebody that I never suspected, and I couldn't take it away. I couldn't fix it. I couldn't go back in time, and but as horrible as that was, I saw, I mean, on top of that, I saw everything. It was like my whole life had played before me. I saw every wrong that I had ever done in my life. It was like a movie playing, and I'd seen all the wrong I had done. But God, in His mercy, He showed me all the good He had still done for me.
Wow.
And that He was working out in my life before I even knew Him, before I had said yes to Him. So I saw the grace of God. And then I now knew that, yeah, Jesus, you did that for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I didn't deserve anything that I had at that point in my life. It was all just because of His grace on my life. You know, and He was still working out His plan for my life, in spite of everything that I had been doing. And so the big thing with that, with my daughter, it was just that I went through a season in my life where I was trying to be loved and accepted, and because I was searching for love and acceptance, I would put my children to the side so I can go get my needs fulfilled.
Wow. Wow.
And it was during those times that I put my children to the side that the enemy was able to come in and harm my child. And so that's why I saw, I mean, and a lot of times we don't realize that your need for love is, you know, you do things to get love. And so it opened doors in my life, you know, for the other things to happen. And I know I didn't put her in that harm.
Right.
You know, I wasn't saying, here, go do this to her, but
right.
But I knew the need that I was trying to get met for myself.
Yeah.
And so that's when my life changed. And so it's actually after that, you know, I'm like going crazy and needing help and seeking help, and I'm calling my church, asking for counseling, and they took us in, and one of the requirements was you got to be in service, you know, at least once a week. So go back to church. So here we are, and I've kind of shared this story before, but here we are in the service, and so now it's during what we call the worship services, where they're singing and singing songs, and I'm just this really shy and reserved person, and I'm standing there and I have my hands like this, you know, because people have their hands up.
Yeah,
I have my hand like this, and they start singing this song. It's called "Dwelling Place" by. I can't think of her name right now, but they were singing the song, and in that song it was just saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I started saying that, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I really meant it. It wasn't because my situation was good, but because I knew He was good, and I was saying I loved Him, and I loved Him because of who He was. And instantly it was like my ears were open. And so all of a sudden in that moment of worship, I just started hearing this like constant thought. It was like, it wouldn't go away. It just hit, the thought just kept saying, get on your knees, get on your knees. And I'm like, no. Me on my knees? Yeah, so it wasn't like people were on their knees around me, you know. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm like, I'm going to cause attention to her. It's like, I can't get on my knees. But it was so persistent, it wouldn't go away.
Oh my God.
It was to the point that I couldn't even sing anymore because you're just like, get on your knees, get on your knees, get on your knees. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can't think anymore. I can't worship anymore. I got to get on my knees.
Yeah.
You know? So we're in this pew and my husband's next to me. And I can't even talk. I tap him on his shoulder and he's like, yeah. I'm like, I gotta get out. And so I get out the pew and I just get out the pew. That's all I do. And I'm like, I fall on my knees. I fall on my knees and all I could do was fall on my face.
Wow.
And all I did when I fell on my face was just cry on my face and just say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that was all I could do. It was all I could say.
Wow.
And so I'm weeping and crying all this, you know, ugly cry, you know. And an usher comes from behind me. Taps me on my shoulder and I turn to look at her and she's actually asking me if she can pray for me.
Aww.
But what the amazing thing when that happened was when I turned around, my husband was on his knees.
Wow.
And he was on his knees crying behind me. And at that moment, the very next thought that was now speaking to me, which was the Lord speaking to me, was, if you will follow me, I will take care of your husband. And so, the very thing that I was afraid of.
Oh my God. I'm like.
Yeah, so that was the day which I say I died at the altar.
Oh God.
Because when I rose up that day, I felt like brand new.
Yeah.
I really felt brand new. There was this refreshing feeling on me. And from that day on, up until now, I can really feel the presence of the Lord on me in a tangible way. You know, just as I'll feel like a tingling sensation with me, a heat on me. I'll feel his peace on me. And a strength inside of me. And so that, from that day on, I changed.
Wow.
And now that began another process in me. But
yeah.
You know, but that was the beginning of a new life for me. I was like what you'd say, born again. I really felt, I understood now what it meant to be born again. And so, yeah.
Wow. So, for those of you guys that are listening, I know you guys are like, wow, right? Like, they're like this in the background, you know, like, some of you guys are like, wait a minute, I don't understand. Like, how is this even possible? And one of the things we want you to know about the broadcast, You, Me, and Jesus, is this is, you know, me inviting some of my friends, sharing their personal relationship, their experiences with God, with you, right? And so I know a lot of you guys are, you know me through business, and you're like, but they don't say that at my church, or I've never heard that. This sounds crazy. Y'all sound crazy, you know, but this is an invitation, right? And the invitation is for you to go to God and say, is that true? Like, did that really happen? Like, do you want me to experience, did she really get visions? Like, did God really speak? Did he really get on his knees as a result of her obeying? You know, like, and not so you can question her, but so you can ask God questions, you know, because one of the things that I know was that I grew up Baptist, and Baptist is great, you know, But there were just certain things that I had never heard, had experienced, but you read about them in the Bible. And I remember seeing a movie called, I think it was like My Blue Heaven, and the guy was like a fake preacher, and he like had an earphone in the background, and he was like calling out healing and deliverance, but somebody was giving him the words behind stage. And every time I saw a TV minister, I was like, well, that's fake. It's just like that movie with I can't remember what the guy's name is. And so I just didn't believe in it. I didn't believe in tongues. I didn't believe in healing or any of that stuff. Just none of it. Until I started saying, is tongues real? Are they a cult? Is healing real? Are they worshiping the pastor, or are they worshiping Jesus? I just started asking questions like, is this for real? Instead of me asking people or asking my pastor, I started asking God. I just started asking out, is this real? Do you really heal people? Do you really, all this stuff? You know what I'm saying? Like, is Jesus a real person? Did he really come to the earth, die on the cross? Like, did this really happen? And I remember when I started asking those questions, he started doing stuff. He moved me to a church, and I was second row of the church worshiping, and I was crying. And then I heard Jesus say, "You're here because I'm here." And I turned really slowly like, what? And there was nobody there, but I knew that Jesus had spoke to me. But prior to that, I came home, my roommate was like, here, God told me to give you this. She bought me a book on angels. And I was like, she didn't know I was asking about that. I was like, she must be reading my journal. And then another time I came home and she handed me the Passion of Christ, the DVD. And I was like, what's going on here? And I realized that God was answering my questions. He was giving me tools through people. And then I just had all types of other experiences. And so this is us bringing our experiences to you guys, so that you can experience God in new ways. And so one of the things we want you to do is to share the broadcast, because you may believe in all of this and be like, yeah, this is so good. But remember that the whole goal is to make fishers of men, right? And so this is us throwing out our poll. And so this is an opportunity for you to share and just throw out your poll and then inviting other people. And then if you have questions, feel free to ask. We're getting ready to get into prophetic worship, where Rebecca's going to talk about when she began to dance. I'm going to ask her, I'll probably ask you this next, the craziest thing God has ever asked her to do. Because next week is I'm doing next week talking about radical obedience. You're going to be like, you did what? So we're going to have her share what's the craziest thing God has ever told her to do. So just kind of think about that. But now we're going to get into where we're going to talk about what is prophetic worship. Because you see people that have the flags and the dancers and they're doing all these moves. And, personally, I was like, they crazy. They just, I don't know why they prancing around with those things. I'm just being honest. This is how I felt, right? Like my friend Jaquita Proctor, I used to be looking at her like, would she just sit down? We didn't go to church together, but I would see her in videos and I'm just like, with the ultimate eye roll, until God began to explain, oh, this is this, and this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening, to where one night I'm at church and I grabbed one of the flags and I'm like trying to wave it over myself. I was just like, this one's for revelation. Give me more revelation. And I'm totally drunk in the spirit. I didn't realize another group of people are laughing at me across the way because they can see me that I'm like, but anyway. So, okay, let's go here with Rebecca. So, what's the craziest thing God has ever asked you to do and you did it, and what was the result?
Oh, gosh, I'm just trying to think of, I have so many of those.
I believe it.
They just get, there's the current crazy now. So like me stepping out faith now is like, you're telling me to record myself worshiping?
No.
Post it on Facebook, so that's crazy for me, so, but there's times, I guess early, when I first got the baptism of the Holy Ghost, some of the crazy things, because at the time, when I got the baptism of the Holy Ghost, I didn't know, I would just open my mouth and tongues would start coming out. And I had this urgency in me. I need to go pray for somebody. I need to go pray for that person. I was like, God, but I'm going to start speaking in tongues. And I'm like, I'm in public places and restaurants, but the urgency wouldn't go away. It was just like this building up in me. You got to pray for them. I'm like, oh my God, I got to pray for them. Because it was like I felt like I was going to erupt if I didn't do it. Yeah, so I like, can I pray for you? And like, sure. And then you pray and you open your mouth and it's this whole other language, and you get this look in at you like,
wow.
So sometimes I wouldn't actually see the fruit of what I was doing at the time. Other than I knew that there was something coming out in me, and I could feel it coming out in me and leaving.
Oh yeah.
And I've heard some testimonies later.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And one of those times that I actually stepped out like that, I ended up at a place to get an inspection done on my car because I couldn't go anywhere else. They were failing it, and I ended up at another place that was actually close to KSBJ.
Yeah.
Down the street from them. I didn't even know it existed. But I go in there, and then I'm there in this place, and I see, I think it was Psalm 91 on their wall. And I'm like, oh, they're playing Christian music.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow, I'm supposed to be here,
Yeah.
I felt led there. That's where I was. And so then I feel like I need to pray to the guy, and then I pray in this crazy language. But at the end of it, he gave me this little statue. It was actually a man in armor.
Yeah.
He wanted to give it as a gift to me.
Wow.
What was crazy about that is that day when I went home, my daughter at that time, she was a teenager, she had just finished school and she had packed up her bags and was like, I'm leaving, so.
Oh, wow. Oh, God.
So, it was just like, I felt like it was just God reminding me, put your armor on,
Wow.
So it's just things like that.
Wow.
And and even to this day, me stepping out dancing is me just being obedient to God, because it's not something that I do naturally, and it really is me saying, I don't care to what I look like. I'm going to look like a fool, but I'm willing to look like a fool in love with you, Jesus.
Yeah.
And I often hear testimonies or from people telling me how it touches them and how God speaks to them through my dance. So.
Yeah. Because I remember your testimony, you were saying that you didn't want to dance, or you wanted to dance, or you couldn't dance, or...
Yeah, so my testimony with the dance is that it actually started stirring in me after watching a prophetic dance for a Christmas special.
Mm.
And for the first time, I witnessed that kind of dance, at least one that I can remember. I made it seem before, but didn't do anything. This time I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
And there was something going on at the altar in that dance that awakened something inside of me, and it just began this yearning inside of me to dance.
Wow.
I couldn't explain it other than I needed to do that. I needed to do that with you, Lord. Not that I want to go on a dance floor.
Yeah.
So it began this constant yearning in me, and I began to I would go, like, as soon as my house, everybody would leave. I'm like, yeah, go with your dad, go, bye. And I close my door, turn off the lights. I lock my door, so nobody walk in. I turn off the lights, I put on a candle, and I put my CD on. And the problem was I didn't know how to dance. Because I was always on the wrong beat, So, and I used to drink. I was staying in the lines to get in clubs, taking shots, or I take a lot of shots of alcohol at home. So when I got to the dance club, that I would be okay dancing,
Wow.
But even with that, I had my limits. There was like, salsa music. I was not even going to try that. I could do some, merengue, but salsa, you have to feel it in your heart and move. And, I was just like, oh, no, I am not doing that. But, I did the other thing on the floor, and I'd be okay. full of alcohol in my system. So here I am now. I don't drink anymore, but I don't know how to dance, and I want to dance with you, Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I would turn off my light, put that CD on and that candlelight on, and I would just begin to worship him with my words. And I just tell him how much I loved him and who he was, and then I would just cry. I just want to dance with you.
Wow.
And then I would picture him with me, and I would see him, taking my hand, and I'd stand up with him to dance, and I would just dance side by, just weighing, just, rocking. Yeah. And that was our dance. And we did that behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And I would have this one song, because that you go through seasons where a song is speaking to you. And I had that one song, that we danced to all the time. And months went by, and I'm serving as an usher at a women's conference.
Yeah.
And I felt like an unction in me to dance when the worship team started playing their instruments, and when they hit the instruments, and I felt like I needed to dance, but I didn't know how to dance. But I was like, oh well, I'm just gonna dance, And I put my foot out. I just stepped my foot out, and when I stepped my foot out, it was like I became a puppet.
Wow.
I was like twirling all over. I was spinning, I had women, I was spinning around on their hands. And as I was doing that, it was like, I don't even know how to explain it. I felt like I was watching myself.
Wow.
And I would feel something leave my body. I could feel like, I guess you can say like an energy being pulled out of me.
Wow.
And so when I would grab the women's fingers like this, then they would fall on the floor. And I'm just like, I couldn't stop dancing either. I danced and danced and danced. And then I went on to the next room where there were some women working and setting up tables for lunch. And I just started prophesying. I was just like, and blah, 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 and blah. And I'm giving words to everybody. And then I couldn't stop. And so finally, I finally calmed down. And but from that day on, I couldn't stop dancing. I mean, all I did, I think about the Lord and I just dance. I'm at home dancing. It was like crazy. It was like crazy. I would, because I would spin around a lot. And, it looks, if you're looking at it in the natural, it's like, that girl needs to stop spinning. She's making me dizzy. But I was just, it was like I was just a puppet. I would just be like, okay, and the Holy Spirit would just move me.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started. It would just, I would just step in and he'd take over. And I remember one night we had this service, a special service, and it was called a Go for God service, and the whole altar was empty, and I felt like I needed to dance. Well, the worship team began to play sing the song that was our song. And I was like, okay, that was radical obedience, you can say.
Yeah.
Nobody else is on the altar. I stepped my foot out, and I literally, it was like I did a choreographed dance. I would fling, I remember flinging forward and being on my knees. I would get all the way on my knees, and then fling back up and twirl around. And I get all the way to my knees here, and I fling back up. And, the whole song. And there was a real powerful move of God in that service. It was just like, I remember thinking, wow, they had to know it wasn't me. But I went through.
Did they say anything?
I went through. It was a real difficult season. I was learning. I could say my character was being developed. And my faith was being added to.
Yeah.
And so I went through a season of learning to honor even those who don't understand.
Yeah.
And so I did that for 5 years.
Wow.
And at that time, I wouldn't know exactly what I was doing, but I could feel like I had things in my hands when I was dancing. Anything. So to me, I could see something spiritually.
Yeah.
and I'd be making movements and stuff with my hands, but there was not actually anything there. I would just be doing the movements of what the spirit inside of me was doing.
Yeah. Wow. So how did these come about? Like, let's talk about these, because she's gonna dance in just a moment, you guys. We're gonna actually turn on. There's a CD called "Breathe" by the worship team at Victory Christian Center here in Houston, and we're gonna be playing that song. And then Rebecca is also going to be dancing live, and then she's gonna show you guys. She has a business, and so we'll talk about that when she talks about the flags. But when we start the dance portion, we want you to just kind of just sit back, lay back, and I believe that God will minister to you right where you are. You don't have to be here, but God will minister to you right where you are. So go ahead and share with us about the flags.
Okay, so I switched, after some time the Lord moved us from our church, and I came into Victory Christian Center, and there was someone there dancing. She was not dancing with one of these, but she was dancing with some fabric in her hand.
Yeah.
It was probably heavier fabric, and I remember just weeping, and I knew that was what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And but I couldn't stop the weeping inside.
Yeah.
It was like my spirit had been grieving all of this time.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't being released out of me.
Yeah.
And so I began to go through a healing process with that. And then there was a short period of time. There was someone dyeing silks and selling them in the store, and this kind of like where I started making this.
Yeah.
So I would go in the store, and I'm looking for one that spoke to me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find one that I actually wanted, that I actually liked, or that was for me. Not that there was anything wrong with what she did, but I was looking for something
for you,
for me.
Exactly.
And I remember just settling for something.
Oh.
I just purchased one thing, and then my husband told me, "Why don't you make your own?" And I had all the excuses in the world. I don't even know how to dye. I don't even know what fabric. I mean, everything is just like, he was like, you can make your own, make it what you want, and it'll be better than that, for what you want. And I mean, there's so much resistance from me. I had so many excuses. And
he's such a promoter of you and everything, all things you.
Yeah, he sees the gift in me, and I'm like, I don't even know about colors,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know that's true. Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I had every excuse in the world. And he bought me a sewing machine for my birthday. Bought a sewing machine for my birthday, told everybody for my birthday that I wanted to learn how to make flags. And so everybody was just everybody gave me money and cards for my birthday. I had a really big birthday party that year. And I had a friend, she purchased some flags for me, and that was my first set of flags. And then when I got those flags, I didn't know what to do with them. I was just like, it was actually really frustrating and discouraging because I didn't know how to move them. It was just like, and then I felt like I wasn't worshiping anymore because now I'm trying to figure out how to move these flags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So and they were heavy. And it's like, these are painful.
Oh my God.
So then I began to learn how to dye, and that was learning how to dye on fabric, and that was a whole other process.
Yeah.
Because you can't dye anything and everything. And if you don't know that, then you pour your heart onto the fabric, and you think you're creating something, and then when it's time for the big reveal, it all washes out. And so, there was a lot of that happening.
Yeah. Oh my
so
God.
you waste a lot of money.
Oh my God.
You pour your heart on it, and so there was all this process.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's where all of that started. And so I didn't have anyone teach me how to dance with this. I just started grabbing the silk and just moving it with my hand movements.
Yeah.
And just being led by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us, okay, because you're going to dance with one tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? So in prophetic worship, when you are, what would you say prophetic worship is? What happens? What's going on?
So what's happening, I'll show you, I'll walk you through my process. What I do in the moment is I am worshiping, and I'll just close my eyes, and feel him. Like, I literally feel his presence on me. I feel his goodness towards me, and it's like our hearts connect.
Wow.
So I feel him. I feel us coming together like this.
Yeah.
And it is just me dancing with him, and my heart being moved with his heart, and not being afraid to express the feelings that are coming out of me. Mm-hmm. Expressing them without reserve. And so my dance may look different from someone else's.
Yeah.
Dance.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he says one thing to me, I may be saying it one way, like this, whatever, and that may be expressed totally different from somebody else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so but that's the way we communicate. So to me, we're communicating with each other.
Yeah. I
feel his heart come in connection with my heart. And so sometimes that prophetic worship will turn into a prayer. Like, all of a sudden, I'm feeling his heart for someone in the room or for an area. And I can begin standing in intercession. I'm interceding. And so sometimes you may think like, why is she crying like that? What is wrong with her? She must be going through a hard time. And actually, it's not even because I can deal with my times. It's not even me. I'm feeling the heart that he has for that situation or those certain people. And I'll feel his heart so much that his heart hurts for those people, for their pain. And we begin to cry out. I begin to cry out with him. And so we come into agreement for that's going on in the area, and I'm crying out. And I'm allowing myself to look like, a mess on the floor and maybe crazy. Sometimes there's like a loud wailing that comes out of me in the middle of it, or I'm like snotty nose, weeping, and just I'm letting go. I let go. It's like I let my body go to just be a puppet, you can say, and he can move however he wants to.
Wow. Yeah, because I've seen you. I mean, like for the last year, and I'm like, okay, so. At first I was like, what is going on? Why is she whatever? But then at times I would say, some healing is going on here. There's some kind of deliverance is happening. And I was just like, I don't need to know all of what she's doing. Go ahead, girl. If you want to come over here, fly over, I was like, go ahead.
Yeah. But usually it starts off in just like a love song. We're dancing in love together. And then all of a sudden it's like, and then I'll start taking on something else,
Wow.
But I find my greatest position in war is just me loving on him,
Yeah.
And in that, it's like something, some people lay on the floor, and I do that as well. I soak to be filled, but I actually get the fullest when I'm dancing. Wow. It's like I get so full of him that I cannot walk anymore. It's very difficult to move after dancing.
I see.
Because it's overwhelming. It's because he has come in and filled me up completely to move through me.
Wow.
And so I'm so full of him. And I haven't done this in a while, but there were times I would just because I used to do a house setting and we would worship. I would worship dancing, and some people would be standing around, and all of a sudden the Holy Spirit would just start I wouldn't even have my eyes open, and I'm running over to people and commanding things, and stuff would just be happening, and I wouldn't even realize what I was doing. It's just his presence would come in and just start ministering through me.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so tell us about this flag, and then when we turn the music on and we let you loose in here, tell them what's happening. What do you want them to do, or when
what I want them to do.
So if they're watching, do you want them to just keep watching you, or quiet, or?
I would encourage you to watch, because when I first watched someone, even if I didn't understand what was happening, he was speaking to me through what was happening. Mm-hmm. So watch, not with a critical eye and trying to understand what is happening, but just watch and embrace the moment, and let God speak to your heart. through that moment, so you can receive from it. So that's what that's what happened to me, and so that's what I encourage others to do. Now, I will tell you, if you're just watching me just to watch me and just like, what is she doing? You're gonna kind of get disconnected. If you just go in, just embracing the dance itself without trying to understand what's taking place, you'll receive more out of it.
Yeah, so we're gonna set up and get everything over in this direction. But Rebecca also, so for those of you guys that are already dancers, or you're saying, I want to do that, I want one of those, we want you to go, there's a link on the video at her website. Tell them what's at your website that they can get, and
Okay, so on my website I have what's called veils or scarves, and that's what I'm going to dance with right now. And those are it's just a piece of silk. It doesn't have a stick or anything inside of it. It's something that's very light, and it just moves with my hands, with however my hands move it. But I also have rod flags, and those flags, they have a rod inside of them. There's different sizes you can choose from, really small to just really big. And that's all depending on the amount of space you have to work with. If you're limited in space, then I always recommend something small. If it's something for your first time, I recommend getting something smaller to work with. And then we have what's swing flags. And swing flags are weighted flags. They don't have any rods in them. Instead, they have a metal beaded, it's a drapery weight that's inside of it. So you're able to roll it up and just put it in your purse and carry it with you wherever you want. And I love to carry those with me because I don't have to worry about the space. I can roll it up and stick it in my purse and travel with it wherever I go and pull it out. So.
Perfect. So guys, you guys can go to her link. It's dyingatthealtar.com, right?
Yes.
And it's dying as in you're dying of tie-dye or whatever. But the link is actually about the video, and then we'll also post it underneath this video. So if you're listening on the podcast, it'll be in the show notes. And if you're watching this on the replay on YouTube, it'll also be in the comments. So give us just 1 second. We're going to take off our microphones, and then we're going to turn the camera. So just hang on just a second. We're going to turn things around and get things set up. So maybe 60 seconds. Okay, perfect. Got it. All right, you go ahead and I'll get it turned over to you.
Okay, I need some water first.
Okay, yes. So we're going to go ahead and get set up, you guys. Oh, forgot about the iPad. All right, let's get things turned around. On the iPad so I can see what's going on. Pretty good. All right. Tom, you can talk. Or tell me anything. Hey guys, we're back. So yay! It's okay, Rebecca, you don't have to come back on. So guys, that was amazing, right? So listen, we want you guys to make sure that you visit her website, Dying at the Altar. I posted it above the video and below the video. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions on the broadcast. We will both get a notification. But what I really want you guys to do is I want you to, once the replay is up, I want you to fast forward it, okay? And just in your own time, you can cut your lights off, be in the bed or whatever. And I want you to fast forward it all the way until when she starts dancing, and I want you to watch it again, okay? And watch it with your eyes closed, eyes open, all of that. And you'll have some encounters, right? Because one of the things that I know about God is that he doesn't want to just let Rebecca experience that or me to experience that. He wants us to experience that. And so the point of You, Me, and Jesus is so that we can share our relationship with Jesus with you guys. And so, you know, here's an opportunity for you to experience it in the way that we are. But in addition to that, if you're already having these amazing experiences, then that's not enough. Your job is to now go and reach others. And here's an easy way to reach someone by saying, here's an amazing testimony, amazing dance, whatever, because you just never know. So that's it for tonight's edition of You, Me, and Jesus. On next Sunday at 7 o'clock, you guys are going to hear from me specifically. I'm going to be teaching on radical obedience. I'll be sharing some of the craziest things that God has asked me to do and how I am just crazy enough to do exactly what he has told me to do. And I've been telling you guys I have a special announcement on January 1st, and that is literally something else crazy that God has asked me to do. So I look forward to seeing you guys on next Sunday. Make sure you guys share the broadcast and like the You, Me, and Jesus Facebook page. So love you all. Hope you have a great evening.